ago and spoke to a Jewish people that was ruled by prophets and by priests who prophesied falsely, and ruled falsely, and the people loved it. The prophet Isaiah stood in the city and said, Ki am Elihim, banim lo avu shamoa, Torah Hashem. Asher amu na'oim lo tiru, לחוזים לא תחזו לנו נכוחות, נגעו לנו חלקות, חזו מהחלות. There is a rebellious people, a children that desires not to hear the law of the Lord, and who says to the prophets, see not, and to the visionaries, envision not unto us true things. Speak unto us smooth things. Envision delusions. Nothing has changed since the prophet Isaiah or Jeremiah rose and stood up against kings and against ministers and against people who did not want to hear the truth. Sanu bashar mochiach, the prophet Amos said. They hate the rebuker in the gates. They hate the rebuker. Speak to us smooth things. Give us delusion. And so for 40 years, governments in this country, leaders in this country, have spoken chalakot, smooth things, delusions. They have lied to the people, and the people have loved it. For how better it is, how much better it is to hear smooth things and sweet things, and how children love candy rather than bitter medicine. But the people that is sick needs medicine and not candy. It needs bitter truths and not sweet delusions. It is now more than 17 years since the Kach movement was founded in this country. 17 years. What have they not done to us in 17 years? What did they not try to do in those 17 years? How they tried to shut them out. How they tried to prevent the crying out in the gates. From those first years until this very moment, what did they not try to do? Prisons, jail sentences with trials, and administrative arrests without trial. Stones. We speak of Arabs throwing stones at Jews. What shall we speak of when we say Jews throwing stones at Jews? But more than that which they attempted to do to us, and which they will still attempt to do, is what they have done to the Jewish people. You heard a few moments ago the story from Yonah Shaking. The villain of that piece is not the Arab who stabbed Yom and Jacob. It is the government of Israel that allowed the Arabs to stab Yom and Jacob. We took a dream and we have turned it into a nightmare. The Almighty gave us a victory in the Six-Day War such as we have not seen in 3,000 years. The Maccabees did not have such a victory as we had in 1967. Those who were in Hebron in 1967, remember, from every window, a white flag. The Arabs stood in terror. Today it is the Jew who is afraid in Hebron. Today it is the Jew who is afraid in Yerushalayim. And for that, there is no pardon. For that sin of Chilul Hashem, of desecration of God's name. We took a Temple Mount and turned it into desecration of the worst sort. That the Jew is not allowed to pray there. We have the keys and gave it back to the Muslim Waqf. What the Chilul Hashem, what the desecration. And every Jew who was stabbed in the old city is stabbed by Arabs who learned to throw off their fear of the Jews because of the Jews. What an outrage that Kach people who patrol the old city are told by the police, "Kol hakavod lachem, you can do what we cannot do because our hands are tied." Please, God, in less than 90 days, we begin the process of untying the hands of the police. The rabbis tell us that if one finds a Jew murdered in the field, and one does not know who murdered him, the elders, the sages, must come out to the field and say, "Yadeinu lo shafchu et hadam hazeh." Our hands did not shed this blood. And the rabbis ask, does anyone suspect the sages and the rabbis of having shed this blood that we compel them to state we did not kill him? The answer is, the rabbis say, the elders, the sages must say, we did everything possible to prevent his being killed. Can the government of Israel say that? Can any of the governments of Israel say that? We did everything possible to prevent the murder of Jew after Jew after Jew after Jew. Our hands are filled with blood. Because of the incredible perversion of ethics, morality, we've adopted every Gentile concept in the world, and the Jew suffers for it. And the Jew suffers for it. There is no morality in having mercy unto Arabs. The morality, the ethics of a situation in which people want to kill you is clear. Go. If one comes to slay you, slay him first. That is Jewish ethics. Took a dream and turned it into a nightmare. For 2,000 years, the Jew, wherever he was, whether in Morocco, or in Poland, or in Iraq, or in Russia, in the Galut, prayed and dreamed and hoped that someday he would escape the shame, the fear of the Galut. Someday we would have a state. By definition, a state of our own is a place where there is no fear, where Jewish youngsters can walk freely anywhere in their own country, where there is Jewish sovereignty. And the Almighty, in His mercy, gave us a state. And we took this state, and we took this dream, and we have turned into the worst kind of galut imaginable. Jews afraid to walk through Shar Shechem to the Kotel, who dreamed of such a thing. If one would have told our great-great-great-grandparents that someday there would be a state again and we would be afraid, he would have laughed at us and said, "What, are you crazy? What kind of Jews do you think we are?" That is what has happened. We are afraid. Jewish cars are stoned regularly. Jewish buses stoned regularly. A Jew rides in a bus, Yaakov, and expects his bus to be stoned. It has become an expectation. Buses ride through Wadi Ara in the heartland of Israel, and as they pass the area of Umm-el-Fachem, the passengers instinctively lower their heads. This is a Jewish state. This is the dream. This is Shivat Zion, the return to Zion. Not this. This is a perversion of that dream. This is a desecration of God's name. And for desecration, there is no forgiveness. There is no forgiveness in this world for Chilul Hashem. There is hope. There is hope. And we are the hope. We are the hope. For 17 years they jailed us and we did not break. For 17 years they persecuted us and we did not break. For 17 years they did whatever they could and we did not break. Most of all, we never changed our ideology. Not when people came and said, if you wouldn't say this, then maybe you'll get votes, and if you add this, then maybe you'll get votes, and we never changed. Today, you see the reality of truth. One stands with God through halakha, unbending and unswerving, and does not fall prey to what you heard. And it's quite true. Hashochad yaver einei tzadikim. Bribery, corruption. Bribery corrupts a person. Not only the bribery of money, but more important, the bribery of kavod, of seats in the Knesset and seats in the cabinet. That is why the greatest Chilul Hashem of all are not the secular parties, but the so-called religious parties. It is you who have sold their soul 100 times over for money. The polls in Chadashot over the last 6 weeks have shown Kach running between 9 and 10% of the vote. That is between 11 and 12 seats, making us the 3rd largest party in the next Knesset. That's why they're in a panic. All of them are is a panic. Not only Shimon Peres, but Moshe Aaron's. There will be no government. This next Knesset without Shmuat. And if necessary, there will be no government. For we are not asking for all the things that all the tiny pygmies have asked for over the past 40 years. We don't ask. We demand conditions. We demand conditions which will begin to change this country, save the country, not only from the Arabs, but from the Jews. There will be conditions that are non-negotiable. If you don't ask for money, you're free to ask whatever you want and tell them, if you don't accept it, we are sitting home. Let's have another election, and we'll tell the people what conditions we asked for, and you turn down, and this next time, we'll get 25 seats. There are going to be conditions of all sorts, all non-negotiable. Take it or leave it. One, every Jew who is today sitting in prison in this country for an act done on behalf of the Jewish people will go free. There will be no pardon. A pardon is given to a criminal, not to a hero. They will go free under a Knesset law, and they will be welcomed at the Knesset by the Prime Minister. He accepts it or doesn't accept it, depending upon what he does, there will be government or there will not be government, but I'm an akshan. You have no idea how stubborn I am. Two, there will be an automatic death penalty for every terrorist caught without anything to say about it. And the definition of a terrorist will be expanded. One who throws a stone for the purpose of killing is a terrorist and will be killed. Intifada, which is now going into its 9th month. It's 9th month. We have given birth to a horror. 9 months of Intifada? 9 months in which the army cannot deal with women and children? The army of Israel, which defeated nations, armies, in 6 days, can't deal with women and children? Of course it can. The problem is that the government ties the soldiers' hands. You can't do this, and you can't do that, and you can't do this. And the Arabs know it, and they are not afraid. The soldier is afraid. He is afraid of shooting and hitting someone and then being charged, brought to trial, sent to prison. And a young Jew, an Ethiopian Jew, who arrived in this country four years ago, drafted, Golani, was sent to Gaza, was attacked, shot an Arab and killed him. He is now sitting in Kilashesh. He has received a 1-year sentence. That is an obscenity. An obscenity. He should be given a medal. Three, the Temple Mount will be given over to the chief rabbi of Israel. Jews will be allowed to go there freely and worship in the area which under halakha is legal. There will be a synagogue built there. Unfortunately, we know that that there are certain things that we cannot ask Shamir because he is simply not capable of doing that. And so the mosque will not be taken down until I am Prime Minister. But in the meantime, the Jew will have at least, the same rights as the Muslims do. We are going to demand that every Arab youngster who today serves not in the army, on reserve duty, no national service, every Arab from the age of 18 will serve 3 years hard labor on the roads. We are going to make their lives miserable so that they will realize that if this is how things are under Kahana when he's only a part of the government, what will it be when he is the government? We are going to put a stop to the insanity of Biduch Leumi, of national insurance, being given to subsidize Arab babies. It is not only not a normal thing, it would do justice to hell. The Biduch Leumi will be transferred from the government to the Jewish agency. And then it will go to Jewish children only, not one groschen will be paid to subsidize our citizens. We are going within 1 month of the new government. You will see who is a Jew amended so that the definition will be according to Halakha. It was, had the Orthodox parties had the slightest ability to make a sacrifice. There will be an anti-missionary law in this country. The Mormon Center will be the biggest yeshiva in Yerushalayim. We're going to open this country up to free enterprise, to capitalism, and let Jews make a living the way they want to freely make a living so that the country will become wealthy. We Jews who have made every Gentile country wealthy will now begin to make our own country wealthy too. There's only some of the things that we will have to swallow to begin to make this country a Jewish state instead of a Hebrew-speaking Gentile nation. We are going to have the school systems in this country change. Every single school is going to be given a huge dose of Judaism, because Zionism without Judaism is empty. It's an impossibility. We are not going to compel second youngsters in their schools to observe the mitzvot, but at least they will have freedom of choice. They will know what they could do and what they should do. This will be a difficult 3 months coming up. This will be the most violent election campaign in Israel's history. We will have physical attacks at each and every rally. Of that there is no question. Because the socialists and the liberals and all the Democrats who pay such lip service to these concepts, as soon as these concepts begin to threaten them, they go out the window. Will be defamed and blasted by a television and radio which is in the hands of the leftists until November 1st, when one of our conditions will be throw them out and put in good Jews in that place. They will attempt to ban us. Have no fear. There's no way. No way. They missed their opportunity. They could have passed a bill which simply stated, Mayor Kahana cannot run. Thanks to God's will, because there was certainly no other reason. No other logical reason. They did not do it, and instead passed an anti-racist bill which saves us. It saves us. So every time the Palestine Post babbles about the anti-racist bill which will stop Kahana, either they haven't read it or they're too terrified to tell you what it really says. It says that any state which is based upon a seifer dat or the shmo al hapulchan dati, to preserve the ritual of faith, shall not be considered racist. Everything that the Kach movement says is based on the seifer dat, on halakha, on Jewish ritual. And if you would read the protocol, the minutes of that evening in 1985, where in 1986, when they passed the Knesset, that anti-racist bill, and you read how the leftist Knesset members begged and pleaded with the Knesset not to pass the law. They said this law will save Kahana. When we appear before the High Court of Justice and with our evidence, we are going to walk out a party that is running for office, the third largest party, and on the way to the next election, when a whole generation of young Jews, youngsters who are today 14, 15, 16, and they don't know Tikkun, and they don't know bacon, and they don't know Kahana. That's when we're number one. So, above all, have faith. And have no fears. 2,500 years ago, the Almighty spoke to the prophet, Jeremiah. And he said to him, you should be a prophet. And he said, no, I don't want to. He knew the Jewish people. And God said to him, Mata ezor matnecha, kamta v'dibarta alehem et kol asher anochi asaveka, al techat mipnehem, pen achitcha lifnehem. Therefore gird up thy loins, and arise and speak unto them all that I commanded. Be not afraid of them, lest I break you before them. And made me this day a walled city and an iron pillar, in brazen wars against the entire land, against kings, against princes, against priests, and against the people of the land, and they shall fight against it, but they shall not prevail against it. For I am with thee, saith the Lord, to deliver thee. That was a message not only to one person. That is an eternal message to each and every Jew who knows the truth, says the truth, fights for it. In the end, please God, we will win and save the Jewish people.